And there we go.
Now it's unmuted. Okay. Welcome to Chalk Talk, everybody. Happy Tuesday. It is March. Today is March the 7th. I'm super excited, as always, to be with you. And there is a lot to get to on today's show. Before I even get into, we always start with thanking our sponsors. I'm going to do that. Let me start there. Let me do that first. So, of course, this show is not possible without the people who have been supporting us for years. We're in the 9th season of Chalk Talk, right? We've been doing Chalk Talk live every week for 9 years. I can probably count the times on my hand that we haven't been live. Either we were in Africa or, somewhere out of the country, and we had a recorded show. But we have been here each and every week, and I thank you for being a part of the Chalk Talk tribe. Of course, you know about our partnership with World Youth Foundation. There is so much to know about the organization. Amazing work with young people, with kids, but also they do work with other organizations and just support the community overall. We are collaborating on the upcoming African American Male Wellness Walk. It's going to be April the 15th at Texas Southern University. I believe the comments are still pinned. If not, I'll put it back. The link where you can go and register and get more information. You can register to walk. You can get a passion team and come out and support the walk. You can be a sponsor, and you can be a health screener. The point of the walk is obviously to get out, move, exercise, have a good time. But what's most important is really about the health screenings. We want to make sure that our Black men are getting these much needed health screenings. I cannot tell you how many times I've spoken with someone who says, I'm in great shape. I run, I work out all the time. You look at them and you think, oh, he or she looks fit or trim, or in this case, he, since we're talking about men. And then they go, and when they finally do get screened, the numbers are through the roof, right? So you can't look at somebody and determine how healthy they are. So we want to encourage you to sign up somebody encourage men to come out and be a part of this walk. We will have at least one more real men, real talk kind of forums. It's where men get together and they're able to have some really candid conversations, because we know not only is physical wellness a part of this effort and a part of what's needed, but also mental wellness. We need our men to be able to talk to each other, have other Black men to talk to about things that maybe they don't feel comfortable talking to anyone else about. We want to break the stigma of feeling like you got to suffer in silence. We've got to end that. And so this is one of the ways we do it. So I'm excited about this work. I'm excited about the partnerships, the people who have come on board to help support this work. And I hope to see all of you on April the 15th with your teams, with your men, your brothers, husbands, fathers, neighbors, colleagues, April the 15th at Texas Southern University. Now, I also want to tell you about Jinka. I love Jinka. You hear me talk about them all the time. It is a product that you can find in HEB, right? And you can also find it on their website. In a nutshell, it reduces inflammation. Inflammation is the root of most of our illnesses. Cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure. It helps with all of those issues. And of course, it helps with things like inflammation and pain. If you have joints pains or ache pains, it's the overall really the thing. The key ingredient in this paste and in the capsules is a high grade of turmeric with a total of 8 roots and herbs. So if you are buying it in HEB, it's in the healthy living section, and here's where you can find it so you'll know what to look for.
Here at HEB in the healthy living department, the probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yeah. Look at a Jinka sale. Look at that. Jinka.
So make sure that you go and get your Jinka and add it to what you do, add it to how you live. And of course, I want to remind you about Kimmy Treats. Kimmy Treats is a great way to get in some healthy, very, very tasty treats. It's the vegan popcorn. I've added the Kimmy bars back to Sunshine. If you're in Houston, you can go and get Kimmy Treats in person. at Sunshine's Vegetarian Deli near the Medical Center on Old Spanish Trail. You can also pick up the body butter. You can get all three of those products there, or you can get them online. In fact, I'm going to re-add the Kimmy treats, the Kimmy bars to the website, and I'm adding an additional size of the popcorn. So get your Kimmy corn, your Kimmy bars, your Kimmy butter, get all of that, right? Because you want it in your life. And you can also order it online at kimmytreats.com. And here are some of the options. All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is, as I mentioned, the first Tuesday in March. And so that means a lot of things, right? It means the combine is over. That ended last week. It means that free agency is upon us, right? And it means that the whole quarterback market is one of the things that we're watching really closely because it's just really interesting this year. What's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers? If you watch this show, you know I am over him. But he is talented if he decides that he shows up and wants to play and wants to do all the things. But right now he's in a dark room somewhere, getting his mind right. So we don't know what's going to happen with him. We know the Jets really want to sign Aaron Rodgers. It looks like the Green Bay Packers are ready to move on for him. Imagine if you run a business and you have an employee that when he or she shows up and puts in the work, that person is head and shoulders above really anybody else that does what he or she does. But if he doesn't show up and put in the work and get out of the dark room, then he or she becomes a nuisance. Well, that's what Aaron Rodgers is, right? If and when he shows up and does all the things you should do to get ready for the season, still one of the best in the game. But if not, so I make that correlation because if you're a business owner, or you have any sort of a team, you understand the kind of crisis that puts your organization in. So that's Aaron Rodgers. Derek Carr was a name that we heard about. The Jets were interested in Derek Carr. They're very interested in Aaron Rodgers. Derek Carr is off the market. He has agreed to a deal with the New Orleans Saints. So he's gone. And this one I'm really excited about, Geno Smith, who had really kind of a coming of age season last year with the Seattle Seahawks, reportedly has agreed to an extension with the Seahawks for 3 years at $105 million. He is a great example of just keep putting in the work. You got to believe in yourself. Don't worry about the critics. If you're willing to put in the work and be in it for the long game, that's what Geno Smith did. He got with an organization that valued what he brought, had some pieces around him, because one of my colleagues, Chuck Modi, who has been a Geno Smith supporter for years and has always argued that Geno never had the people around him. He never had the defense, and I'll have to find it and retweet it and post it in the notes. He talks about the defense that Geno Smith has played with in years, what the ranking was. There was never a defense ranked higher than like 23rd, if I'm not mistaken, in his career. And so it's been interesting. So it's good to see Geno Smith show that, you know what? You got to just cut out the noise. You got to just be focused and put in the work. You got to believe in yourself. And that is what he did. And I like to make that speaks to me because it doesn't matter if you're playing football or basketball, or if you are running a business, or you're trying to get a promotion at your job. Whatever it is you're doing, do that, right? You just got to put in the work, drown out the noise, right? I'm not talking about the constructive, instructive things that can help you. I'm talking about all the negative chatter that says you'll never get there, you don't deserve it, you're not good enough, write you off, going on to the new and next best thing. Do what Geno Smith did. Now, I'm not sending him to the Hall of Fame, but I'm saying what he did was he earned a starting job with the Seahawks. He had a really, I said, coming of age season last year. And oh yeah, by the way, he's about to get a new contract extension and he's going to get paid. So at the end of the day, those are all the things that you want to see happen. And now you want to continue to build on that if you're Geno and the Seahawks, and build and the Seahawks are hoping to get back to, deep in the playoffs and ultimately win a Super Bowl. That's the ultimate champion. So that's what's happening. What's happening with the Houston Texans? Well, we don't, nothing yet, right? DeMarco, Coach um, Ryans has got his staff together. Tomorrow we get a chance to go over and visit with the defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator. So I'll be there tomorrow and I'll be posting some of that sound on my platforms so that you can hear from them. And now it's just about getting ready for the draft. The other piece of NFL news is what the hell is going on with the Ravens? I mean, I just can't understand it. And if you can help me understand what they're thinking, I need you to drop it in the chat because I don't get it. They've built their entire offense around Lamar Jackson. The players want him back. There's nobody in the organization in terms of players that we've heard from have questioned at all whether he wasn't really injured, because there's a thought of maybe he wasn't injured. Now, I will say this, if there's any criticism that Lamar deserves, is probably that, dude, go get an agent, right? Go get an agent to do the deal, because they're not really operating with you in the way they should, because they're dealing with like your mom, and that's no knock on her. But get somebody that does this work so that they can go and get this deal done. However, even with that said, what they put on the table, they being the Ravens, hasn't been respectful of what he's given to the organization. And so the word on the streets is, right, NFL rumor mill says that the Ravens are really considering putting the non-exclusive franchise tag on Lamar Jackson. So here's what that means. The non-exclusive tag means he can go out and get offers. People can say, you know what, another team can say, I want Lamar Jackson. We'll give up these draft picks, and here's what we're offering him. And then the Ravens get a chance to match it. So if they put the exclusive tag on him, then he can't talk to anybody else. It's this money or he doesn't play. We'll see what that means, right? We'll see what happens. But that's just interesting to me. I don't understand it. They didn't have these kind of issues with the previous GM. I'm just saying. And Ozzie Newsome, you didn't hear some of the things coming out of Ravens camp that you hear now. Like what's really going on, y'all? Anyway, that's kind of my NFL news and notes update as we get closer to actual start. Well, we are kind of in free agency, but we'll start. Everyone's now working toward the draft. What are the Chicago Bears going to do? Will they trade the number one pick? It looks like they're leaning toward keeping Justin Fields, which to me is the right thing to do, right? Because you've got to build around the quarterback. He's got to have the right system. He's got to have some stability. He's got to have some pieces to work with. You didn't do that yet for Justin Fields. So even if you go out and get Bryce Young and you don't do that, you still will have an issue. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know what the Houston Texans are leaning toward doing. There are people that like what they saw from Anthony Richardson at the combine. They said he looks good. The things that are uncertain about him are things that can be worked on if he goes to, as you heard Coach Michael Haywood say a couple of weeks ago, the right system and with the right people. So we will follow and see what that does. I've heard from some of you. You enjoy Coach Haywood. I told him he's going to come back. I can't tell you when, but I'll try to get him back in the next couple of weeks because he just gives us such great insight and such great information. So that's kind of what's happening around the NBA. Around the National Football League. Before I go to the NBA, let's talk about the Houston Astros. They are in spring training. They're now 5-3. I think yesterday afternoon, they have 14 players that are playing in the 2023 World Baseball Classic. And because they have so many foreign players, they've got 14 players that are playing for their home country. So that is happening. But we did get to hear from Alex Bregman. He spoke a couple of days ago, and everyone's asking players, what do you think about this whole new pitch clock, the timing on it? And he said, Alex said, listen, I guess in time we'll know, it may take some time to get used to it. I don't know if they're just going to say you got spring training, but it gets figured out, if they'll have more time. Those are things that people are waiting to find out about. But he also talked about just building on what happened in the second half of last season, which is, as you know, they finished the season on a high note, and then they ultimately won the World Series. Here is Alex Bregman from spring training. Says he feels good.
Just workouts this off season were great. We got a good routine down. Got a great staff here that's been helping me ramp up and get ready to go for the season. But overall, the off season build up was great. I'm ready to play.
They had a couple lefties in their order, just with the way you guys are going to position defense now without the shift. Was that nice to get experience? I know you guys have probably done it on the backfield. But it was nice to get experience with it in the game, and kind of how do you feel like that's going to affect you at third base?
Yeah, it's just getting back to like the old kind of positioning a little bit. I'm still off the line a lot on some lefties. Just depends on kind of their chart.
That was Alex Bregman, and spring training opening day for the Astros is in a few weeks. It's March the 30th. I am so excited. They do open at home at Minute Maid Park, I think against the Chicago White Sox, if I remember correctly, but we'll be talking about that as we get closer to that day. They also will play, I think they have a couple games they're going to play, one at Constellation Park and then at Minute Maid Park with their AAA team. So that fans will get a chance to see them, face off. So it's exciting times. It's always exciting times this time of year, right? Because you're talking about getting ready for the NFL draft. The NBA season, which usually for me, prior to the last 3 seasons, always meant ramping up to cover a playoff team because the Rockets were in the playoffs, 7 or 8 straight years. Well, they're not that team right now, but they're working to get back to that. And I know, listen, I was out this weekend at the AIDS Walk Houston. Shout out to the AIDS Walk. It was a great turnout. It was great weather. It's a great cause. Go to afhouston.org if you want information. If you want information about screening, information about how you can support the effort and just where things are. Because I've had people say, well, what is really the status right now? Go to the AIDS Foundation Houston website. They've got great information and a lot of really, really good resources. And I'm going to say this, you can't look at somebody and know whether they're HIV positive, right? So it's about prevention, it's about education, and all the information is there. But it was a great day, and it was a great walk over the weekend. But while I was walking, I heard a couple people behind me say, they were talking about the Rockets, and they said, yeah, they really are bad. They use some other words, but they just are really bad, right? So why would we go see them? And that's what happens in a market like Houston. I can say that because I'm a native Houstonian. If you are not winning, you start to lose your fan base. Like the true fans will still come out. But people who are, marginal fans, they're only going to come and watch this Houston Rockets team if they're better, if they're more competitive, and if they have a chance to win. And when you just look at the record, which is right now 15-49, okay, 15-49, and how many games do they have left? So that means 64. So they have 18 games left in this regular season, or in this season, because it will end when the season ends for them. They've won the last 2. It was against the Spurs, but when you're the Rockets, it does not matter who it's against. They won convincingly on Sunday, but I guess you could kind of call that a blowout. Tonight they're playing the Brooklyn Nets. Probably 3 months ago, that game might have been more excited to watch it, but now the Rockets have a better chance because this Brooklyn Nets team, after trading away Kyrie and trading away Kevin Durant, is a very different team. What are the Brooklyn Nets right now? The Brooklyn Nets are 36-28. They're in the 6th spot in the East in terms of playoffs. So, they still, postseasons are still a reality for them, but no one is really talking about the Brooklyn Nets being a contender to win the Eastern Conference, to get to the NBA championship, and certainly not to win it all. So the Rockets are back in action tonight against Brooklyn. And here is Coach Silas after Sunday's win against the Spurs, and he's talking about kind of how they're finally getting it together, right? They're finally getting it together. Again, it's been 2 games. They're just trying to have some positive things to build on. But here is Coach Silas. Let's see here.
Just employing different schemes, especially with switching. How would you assess how those guys have looked the second group with Tate, Tari, and these guys trying to switch?
They look good. They look good in the switching. When we have guys, like-sized guys, and we try to switch a bunch, it's really on the 5-man for the most part. I mean, Tate and Tari, they're going to guard their guys, and when they switch, there's no drop-off or anything, but it's when the perimeter guy screen or the big screens for the perimeter guy, and now we have Ooze out there guarding a smaller guy, and he did a good job. He tips the ball away. He's active. He gives him an angle to the rim and then blocks the shot. So, yeah, I like it. I like it.
What did you see from your team in the third quarter when they went from a 10-point lead to just completely taking over?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed at halftime as far as like our lackadaisical play in the second quarter. I thought we started the game well, but the second quarter we just didn't play well. Scoot made the last 3, which put us up 10, but I challenged the team at halftime to play better, especially on the defensive end, and start the third quarter like we started the game and have the right attitude going into that third quarter.
That was head coach Steven Silas talking about what he saw from his team on Sunday. And, listen, it's got to be difficult to be in that position. And I always go back to how he arrived in Houston, he being Steven Silas, and then what he was dealt, right? The hand that he was dealt. And having all of these very, very young players, because you can't coach maturity and experience. And it's been a lot. And I think he's done, he's done an okay job with it. The numbers are not great. It doesn't, if you don't follow the team and you never watch them, and granted, sometimes I'm there and it's hard to watch. It's not a great brand of basketball. But sometimes you see them really going after it. You see the growth. It's tough losing. Ain't it, for anybody? But it's really tough on young people, right? On these young players who came out and were at the top of their games, their league. It was really tough. I was trying to see. Let me go back to what happened. What was the final on Sunday? I think they had. Let me go back. So on Sunday, the final was 142-110. That's what I was looking for. They beat the Spurs 142-110. Okay. While we're talking about basketball, right? I also wanted to talk about Ja Morant. This transformative player for the Memphis Grizzlies in the NBA, and he has had some issues off the court. The last thing that really was kind of the tip of the iceberg, if you will, is he videoed himself or was doing an Instagram live while he was brandishing a gun in a nightclub after they lost a game or something. It was not a great look. It was incredibly irresponsible, but it has also then spurred some other conversations and investigations about some alleged activity or actions that he's had off the court. So right now he's been suspended. He is suspended for at least 2 games. It may be longer. And I want to let you hear from Marc Spears, who is the senior NBA writer, Andscape, which is affiliated with ESPN, talking about just, the latest, right? What he's hearing from the NBA, from other players. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to share my screen and I keep hitting the wrong tab. Operator error. It will get you every time. Let me let you hear from. This is Malika Andrews, the host of this show.
For Andscape into this conversation, Marc Spears, because Marc, I'm curious, what are you hearing from around the league in reaction to Ja Morant's actions and subsequent absence from the Memphis Grizzlies?
Well, I talked to guys from 4 different teams who have a close ear to the players. And what they were saying is the players really don't want to speak about this publicly out of respect for Ja and him being an elite player. But they also felt behind the scenes that his actions were really silly, quote unquote, from one person, and wondered what was he doing and why would he do that. A couple of them said that some of the players were raising an eyebrow about Ja, saying that there was some stress going on with him in his statement, but they want to stay away from it, and they're certainly very worried that he's moving way too fast.
So I guess the question now, Ramona, is where do the Grizzlies go from here?
You know, I was at the game last night with the Grizzlies and the Clippers. It was a close game. The Grizzlies had a lead. They ended up losing it in the fourth quarter. And it felt like a moment of normalcy, right, where they were talking just about a basketball game. But the Grizzlies, when you talk to them, to the players, to coaches, to people in their front office, they are approaching this as 2 ways. One, there is the support for Ja Morant, the person, and especially what he's going through as he seeks help. And 2, there's the level of accountability. As Coach Taylor Jenkins said, we have to have a standard in our organization and around the league. And this is a league.
So that is Ramona Shelburne talking about what happened as they look at, what happens in terms of how does this impact this Grizzlies organization. And, let's see. I may get to some of your, hey, Rainice, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Hey, good morning, Carolyn from out west. Kevin Walker, are you supporting the Garoppolo move? Jimmy Garoppolo is from the Patriots tree that we often talk of, and we know that Nick Caserio, the general manager, came from the tree, right? So, is that the move? Would you sign Garoppolo? They do need to have a veteran on their squad, so I don't see, as long as you're not giving up the farm for him, that's not a bad move, because even when you go out and get a quarterback, Davis Mills is not the veteran that you really need with this squad. Like, how helpful can he be? So we'll see. That'll be interesting. Hey, good morning, Joe McGinty. Welcome. And Joe says the Nets are still decent after the big trade. The Rockets are just hard to watch for the entire 4 quarters. I just haven't seen improvements from last year. So is it me or is it Silas? You know what, Joe? You asked a question that a lot of people do ask. Let me first take the first part of your comment. They are tough to watch for an entire 4 quarters, because they'll have moments, and then there'll be one or 2 of the 4 quarters where they just are not. They're not there, right? So I don't know. I'm gonna say it's not Silas, and I know that it's. For some people, it's like, it's got to be the coach. It's his responsibility. And you've heard me say it a lot the last couple of years about how young they are, but they are young. They don't even really know how to play. They don't know how to play defense at this level. Some not really at all. And so, and to overcome adversity, when you're leaning on each other, which is great, they've got some camaraderie. That's awesome. But there's just no real veteran leadership. And even when Eric Gordon was here, I mean, Eric was a good guy, but I don't know. I don't think he was quite the answer. And for those of you who have been hitting me up, inboxing me, and DMing me talking about James Harden, I don't think he's the guy either. I don't think having Harden to this team is the answer. I'm still thinking that Harden is just using the whole not shutting down, that he would be interested in coming back to the Rockets as a negotiating chip. But Harden is on the other side of his career. He's on the other side of his prime. I'm not saying that there's no use for him, but I wouldn't give James Harden a max contract. What is he, 33, 34? And we've seen that he's not the James Harden he was when he played with the Houston Rockets in terms of what he can do. Does he still have moments? Does he still have value? Absolutely. His best shot is to get it done with Joel Embiid, right? If they can win it there, because I don't know how much longer the Sixers have, because I don't know how Embiid's knees will hold up, right, over the years. Big guys tend to, once they start having problems with their lower extremities, those injuries become, they continue to have them. So I don't know, but I don't think James Harden is the answer here. But they do need some veteran leadership with this Houston Rockets team. So, Drunk says Silas getting fired end of season by bro running the daycare with the basketball court over there. I don't know if you, and then you say he's mentally tapped out. You can hear it in his voice. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've actually had a chance to get to know Silas since he's been here and talk to him, in interviews and then just personally, around the facility and outside of games and practice. I don't think he's mentally tapped out. Do I think he is? It's draining because of all that you have to try to manage. And you say a daycare, I mean, a little tongue in cheek perhaps, but there's a lot. I mean, there is the youth and trying to keep them really engaged because as I mentioned, losing is hard. It's hard on veterans, but it's really hard on young people. I can see it in some of the body language of guys when they first got here and they're ready to take on the world, but it is hard to overcome so many losses, right? They're 15-49. They've won 15 games. They've lost 49 games. That's very, very difficult. So I thought the record would be better this year. They have 18 games left. I'm not real sure. Let me look at their schedule. Where the other wins come from. I mean, so they're home tonight against Brooklyn, maybe. They are at Indiana on Thursday. They're back home against the Bulls on Friday. Then next week they have at home the Celtics on Monday, the Lakers on Wednesday, the Pelicans on Friday. It's tough to see which one of those where they get a win next week. Then the following week they go to New Orleans on Sunday. They play they're back at home on Sunday. They play New Orleans. They play Golden State on Monday. Now, Golden State haven't been great on the road, but they've got Curry back. They're probably going to be, trying to ramp it up. Then they go to Memphis for 2 games. They come back home and play Cleveland, the Knicks. They go on the road to Cleveland, the New York Knicks, Brooklyn, before coming back home on the last day of the month against Detroit. So their schedule, my point from March, their schedule is crazy hectic. Drunk says he did think he was coming to play to coach a playoff team. Yes, he did, right? He thought he was coming to coach a playoff team that had 2 former MVPs in Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Both of them chunked the deuces and said, "I'm out." James Harden in a real immature foul kind of way, which I don't know how you come back to an organization after the way he left, because that for doggone sure wasn't decent and in order. But you're right, John. That is what he thought he was coming to coach. And instead, he got a lot of routine 3 years in a row. He got a lot of youth because they moved on from players. The few veterans they have, PJ Tucker, they became very, very young. Hey, Tony. Tony says Memphis and NBA not using the term suspended. He's away from the team. Yeah, I know, right? They're not using the term suspended, but yeah, that's what he is. And they say he's getting some help. I don't know, Ja Morant. I just see him, right? When they're in the West, so I see him a few times a year because they play the Rockets, but I don't cover him, so I don't have any, sense of who he is. I've heard, good things about him. And one of the things, and if you get a chance, the Marc Spears, who you saw in the earlier clip, wrote a piece for Andscape, is where he writes, which is affiliated with ESPN. And he, in this piece, he talked about, Ja following the blueprint of Carmelo Anthony. Because I don't know if you guys remember, right? But Carmelo Anthony, after coming out, and having being all world at Syracuse and then coming into the league and being highly, the expectations were through the roof for him. He got off to a rocky start, right? Because he had some, shall we say, challenges early in his career, but he pivoted. He made a pivot, right? He got better people around him. He grew up a little bit, and all that's a part of it because. And I'm not trying to say you shouldn't have your boys with you because that's not really my point. I get that you want to have some sense of normalcy and comfort because you're coming to this thing that's kind of foreign. But you've got to be very careful about who is in your circle and that they can help you to grow. And that includes his father, who seems like he likes to, turn up a lot. I mean, somebody in the group has got to be the mature grown up. And hopefully he finds that and gets it together. I mean, he's young, but you just have to make better decisions and better choices. And there are reports that he hit a 17-year-old somewhere, and then there's a lot of activity that, as Marc said, makes players who don't want to come publicly and say anything because they want to support him, right? But they're like, man, what is he doing? It's silly. Get it together. And for all the people who may criticize LeBron James, the reason that LeBron is held up as a model, not that he's perfect, but as a model for, do this and not that, because his team is strong. He surrounded himself with people. All right, so you say you want to be a part of my business. So you're gonna go to school and you're gonna learn this and we're gonna get the certifications and you're gonna become an agent. Okay, so empower the people around you to be around you so that everybody's bringing something to the table. To me, that's what you do, and I hope that they get that together. Good morning, Charles Lamar Drayton. We got to get you back on, our legal expert. We haven't had him on in a while. Tony says, Silver and Memphis using kid gloves on Ja at the moment. Yeah, I think they want to be careful in how they handle it. I think they recognize there's some things going on with Ja, and they don't want to push him in the wrong direction. It looks to me like, and I, of course, haven't had a conversation with either of these men, they want to say, we support you. You got to do better, but we still support you. You know how you can be a parent and say, I love you, but your behavior is not okay? It looks like maybe that's some of it. I don't know. And Joe says, in my opinion, James Harden burned too many bridges with the organization. Rockets, teammates, and fans. I'm going to stop right there. You make an excellent point, right? Now, these guys, most of them were not here when he showed out. I think Jay Sean Tate may have been here. I don't know if Kenyon Martin was here. The younger guys like Alfie and KPJ. I don't think KPJ was here. Obviously Jalen Green, Tari, none of those guys, Josh, none of those guys were here yet, I don't believe. No, because they hadn't had the draft. Anyway, yeah, but he acted out. And so Joe said, no for me. It's a hard no for me. Rockets most definitely need some veteran leadership. Maybe a win comes on the luckiest day of the year, March 17th. Maybe so, right? They got 2 wins the last 2 days. Who are they playing on the 17th? They're playing the New Orleans Pelicans. That would be something. St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. But you're right. It's a hard no for me too, Joe. And I don't have anything against James Harden. I just don't think it's the answer. I don't think it's the answer. Ja needs real grown blankety blank men in his circle because all of his troubles are self-inflicted. He can easily rebound. I agree. I think you're absolutely right. And I think if you read that article that Spears wrote, that's exactly what Carmelo Anthony did. He rebounded. He got it together. He's young enough to stop this foolishness, but you need some real grown people in your circle and some people who are not trying to be you, right? They don't need to be you. They have a life. They can support you. And that's what he needs. I think you hit it on the head. Hey, good morning, Paul. Welcome to Chalk Talk. Thank you for being a part of the show. All right, everybody, if you will, you know the rule. If you'll share, not the rule, the request, if you will share this video with your online community, because as we continue to grow Chalk Talk, I'd appreciate it. And there's a lot of fun stuff coming up. The Final Four is going to be in Houston in about another month. On Sunday is Selection Sunday. I'll be covering that. So we'll see who goes where. And y'all know I don't talk about the University of Houston usually, but as they get into the March Madness, get into the tournament, they will definitely be in the tournament. We will talk about them then. And if you're new to the show and you wonder, well, Kim, why don't you talk about the University of Houston Cougars. I mean, they are, right there in your, let me go here, top 25. They are a part of they're right in your own backyard. The University of Houston right now is 29-2. They beat Memphis on Sunday. The final was 67-65. They're still the number one team in the country. The reason that I don't cover the University of Houston, because I know that many of you are alums, is because their sports information department is just, I'm going to just use the word disrespectful. And so I have jumped through as many hoops as I'm going to cover that team. And the last conversation I had with their sports information people was about 5 years ago. And it ended something like this. We just can't let anybody cover the team, but we will allow, which was a real problem for me, we will allow you to cover practices and press conferences. So like Joe said earlier, I'm a grown blankety blank woman. I'm a professional. I carry myself as such, and you will not allow me to do anything. That's not how this works. And the sports information guy who's still there said, I just don't feel like you're committed to college athletics. So that's not my job, that's his, right? I'm committed to the work I do, to the stories I tell, and being fair, objective, and highly qualified at what I do. It is not my job to be committed to college athletics. That's his job because he gets a check from a college athletic team. So anyway, that's why, for those of you who don't know why I don't cover them, I wish them well. I just don't really talk about them on the show, but I will because they'll be a part of March Madness, the number one team in the country. And so I will cover the tournament. So then we will have to talk about what they're doing along the way. And perhaps they get to the Final Four, which will be played at NRG Stadium the end of March, beginning of April. And I'm going to be there for all of it. So I can get access to Final Fours and World Series and Super Bowls and NBA, NFL, all of the things, all of the other teams. But the good old people over at the University of Houston say no. Yeah. I say miss me on that, right? I've just done this too long. Joe McGinty says, good, you know your worth and don't sacrifice your integrity. Good for you, friend. I know, Joe, I've just done it too long and put in too much work, and you have to know when to tap out and say, then okay. I won't spend energy on that. I'll spend that time on the other side of my business. Of course, you guys know I also have a consulting business. I'm a keynote speaker. And one of the cool things about what I do is sometimes while I speak, I also MC events. And I got a chance to MC, this is before we get out of here, a really cool event on Friday for an organization called Community Works. They're out in the north side of Houston on Homestead, have been in the community for a while. And they are just doing some amazing work for young people, for adults in terms of, getting them prepared, work ready with skills, but really what they're doing with kids in the area. And they are in the area right on Homestead. And what they do is for probably anybody, but it's really focused on that community. And so just to see the good work that's happening, I was honored that they asked me to come be a part of their event. And it's definitely something, if you live on the north side, if you're in that part of town, you should definitely, if you're not familiar, you probably already know about Community Works. But if you don't, you should check it out. Go to their website, find out how you can get involved. Maybe you want to support it, or maybe they have services or programs that you or your children would benefit from. So I encourage you to do that. So over the weekend, I got a chance to work with a couple of good organizations. I participated in the AIDS Walk, and I do some work with the organization. I was actually on the board of AIDS Foundation Houston. I don't remember when I left the board, maybe about 2010 or 2011, or maybe 2012. Yeah, I don't remember. But I spent about 4 or 5 years on the board of directors. So I'm really passionate about the work they do. They do great work. The numbers are coming down. The goal is that HIV is stigma-free, and that it becomes rare, and ultimately that they wipe it out in the greater Houston area. That's really what the organization is working toward. And so I'm glad to do some work with them and be a part of those efforts. Don't forget about the African American Male Wellness Walk. It is April the 15th. I'm going to post it in the comments, the link. Go register, go get the information so that you can participate. And I will keep you posted on when the next Real Men, Real Talk event is. Until then, everybody, remember, make sure you're registered to vote. We stay registered so we don't have to get registered because your vote and your voice matters, right? That's what we do here on Chalk Talk and the Chalk Talk Tribe. Also, listen, y'all be careful out there in those streets. COVID is still amongst us. People are still getting it. And one of the ways that you can, if not completely avoid it, at least not be taken down by it, right? Is to be vaccinated. So I'm encouraging you to be vaccinated. I have all the vaccines and I don't have anything growing out of my ears or my head. So that's just me. I'm just telling you. So I encourage you to get vaccinated. And remember, everybody, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. Make it a great week. I'll see you next Tuesday right here on Chalk Talk. Peace.